Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Landscape North. This is episode 24, I believe. Today we have the guest of Brent Raymond from DTAH in Toronto. Brent is a urban design professional. And before we get started with the questions, Brent, maybe you could just give a quick little introduction about who you are and what you do at DTAH.
Sure. Thanks, Chris, for asking me to take part in this. I'm a landscape architect and planner and partner at DTAH. I've been with the firm for 19 years, practicing for 25 plus.
Wow.
And as you noted, urban design, that is the scale that I work at.
Right.
What that means is I'm doing everything other than building buildings and parks, but everything up to that point.
Got it.
So I work at the large scale, but also in the details of standard and guideline development for different types of projects. Most of my work is public sector.
Okay.
So that is where I'm most involved.
Okay. And how long have you been working on the public sector side of the business?
Whole career.
The whole career. Okay.
Yeah.
In school? What school did you go to?
So I did my undergraduate in planning at the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design.
Oh, okay.
And did my master's in landscape at Guelph.
Nice. Another Guelph graduate.
There are a few of us.
There are a few. You had a few that have been on the podcast as well. Yeah. So, well, we'll dive right into the questions. I don't want to keep any more time. So we'll talk initially about urban parks and modern cities, which is Toronto obviously is a modern city. Urban parks have always been a part of the city life, but the role seems to be evolving, as we talked about in Ottawa and in other discussions. Mm-hmm. From your perspective, how are today's urban parks meeting the social, environmental, and wellness needs of modern cities?
That's a great question. It's important to perhaps reflect back on the role that parks have played historically. Cities have been around for millennia, but urban parks in the way that we think of them today have only been around since the mid-1800s. Galen Kranz, who's a professor in the School of Architecture at Berkeley, wrote about the different periods, the first being the pleasure ground, the second the reform park, the third being the recreational facility, and the period that we're in now, which has been happening since around the early 1990s, is the open space system.
Okay.
So each of these periods had a particular area of focus, and it's not as though there's a solid line that you cross that threshold and then you're in the other. It takes some time to adapt, but this open space system period that we're in now hasn't been the same. We've definitely advanced our thinking around that, but in many ways it's in respect of a better understanding of ecological systems.
Okay.
The work that Olmsted had done, but then through the eyes of McHarg, and then we see locally wonderful examples of the advancement of that thinking, and work like Corktown Common, everything that's happening around the Dawn, the piloting of sponge parks within Toronto, which is happening soon. Work up in Vaughan around doing more around stormwater, and making that part of an open space system so people can appreciate the actual ecological services that nature can provide, and not just putting it over to the side, but integrating it. So our park systems need to evolve and meet the challenges of climate change and resilience. We all feel it, especially on days like today where it's 42 degrees with humidity.
Yeah, and not the best day for me to wear an all-black outfit in downtown Toronto.
Well, a lot of people in all-black outfits in downtown, but we're evolving, and I think what we'll see more and more is greater emphasis on the urban tree canopy and the stormwater management features within these spaces, the biodiversity contribution that parks have. It's not going to be over there and over here. A lot of cities have done this, and Toronto is no different. Here's our natural system, here's our park system. We'll see the blending of the two.
Right, okay.
And We have the good fortune of having the ravines in the Toronto region, but you take those away, we need to think of the park systems without that.
Right.
Don't put all your natural value in the ravines themselves. We need to expand that into the neighborhoods and the communities so they can have that benefit.
Cool. And so on that note, balancing private and public open space, we find that cities are increasingly integrated a mix of private and public space, open spaces. How do you see the balance between these spaces shaping the way we communicate, interact with the urban landscape?
This is a complicated planning policy question. So what is required of new development in public open space, parkland dedication, is different now than it was not that long ago.
Sure.
So changes in provincial policies and legislation have modified the way that municipalities and the development community work together to deliver the required open space that provides amenity to new populations.
Okay.
So private open space is relatively new in Toronto. It's been about a decade plus, but in other cities, in Chicago, New York, San Francisco, it's been around for half a century.
Right.
And we're still learning here about how to provide privately owned public space in a way that meets the needs of the communities. We're finishing up, in the midst of a project in Vaughan, in developing guidelines around privately owned public space, because the provincial legislation now allows for the delivery of active recreational facilities in privately owned space. That wasn't the fact before. So people are learning, okay, what does this mean to us as a municipality?
Sure.
What does this mean for us as a property owner who's developing a site? No one really has all of that put together yet.
Right.
So it's a bit of a learning curve.
Right.
But we need more public space. My personal opinion, public or private, doesn't matter if it's high quality and it meets the needs, and we just need more of it, and not necessarily just all consolidated into one space.
Right.
Yeah.
So implementing design challenges, designing is a great part of one. Designing it is a great park is one thing, but bringing it to life is another. What do you see as the biggest challenges in implementing urban park projects today, and how do you see overcoming them?
Beyond this issue of ownership,
Yep.
and the changing legislation, that there are some technical challenges that we need to consider moving forward. When we start dealing with stormwater management in a park, often stormwater is dealt with by water utility.
Right.
In a more traditional way. Here's our stormwater pond, collect the water there. Here's our street, we collect it in a pipe and we take it someplace else. Right. When you start overlapping these uses, it challenges the governance and the ownership of and operations and maintenance of those uses. So that again is a steep learning curve, but nature does it. So
Sure.
we need to think about how do we get to that point.
So are you saying then that there's a challenge between different levels of internal governments that have typically had ownership over one area or the other, and how those different divisions can work together?
There's a lot in internal governance in any large institution.
Sure.
And it's not that people can't relearn how to do things. It's just it takes some time. So if you are just an observer and don't understand the internal workings of a municipality,
right,
or how different governments work together, different levels, it can seem, this should be a simple answer.
Right.
It's not always the case.
Right.
So because I have that experience in working with municipalities and trying to, they have an aspiration, how do I get there? The path is often a complicated one, but you need to daylight what the issues are, talk about, well, why not? Why can't we do that? Understand. it's real easy to point out issues. It's far more difficult to suggest a solution.
Right.
So, but you need to ask those difficult questions first, and hear people's responses to it, so you can work together to find that solution.
Right.
Last 200 years, everything has been scientifically reduced.
Okay.
Stormwater here, forestry here.
Sure.
It's basic, and that's a very contemporary or modernist way of dealing with everything.
Right.
Transportation separate from land use. Let's deal with water completely different from ecological systems.
Right.
Right. It's a hard engineering solution. We don't do that anymore in so many things, and it's just a learning curve. It's a culture shift, but once you start getting people working together, and everyone has the best of ambitions.
Right.
There's no one saying, I'm going to put up a wall and I can only do things the way I did it 40 years ago. Well, how are we going to look back 40
Right.
years' time to how we do it today?
Right.
So I'm hopeful that these things we can overcome these challenges. And I'm seeing over the course of time a lot of progress. But it does take time.
Yep.
And you need to go through that process. But I'm hopeful these things are possible.
Perfect. And the last question I have for you is probably looking ahead, what trends or innovations do you believe will define the next generation of urban parks and public spaces in our cities?
I think we've alluded to some of this
Yep.
already, that we're going to see more and more of the increase of ecological systems in our park spaces. We will see the blending of recreational uses in different ways. It won't just be active recreation in the traditional sense. The mid-20th century playing field is
Right.
primarily oriented towards young males.
Right.
The expansion of what recreation means in the various different ways. But parks will have a major impact on climate change and resilience, human thermal comfort, the placemaking value of streets and spaces. So they absolutely play a major role. But I would like to see is more parks, both larger parks, but also smaller parks that are situated throughout the city, because every small pocket of green has a benefit for a certain radius.
Sure.
From a microclimatic perspective, from a placemaking perspective.
Yep.
We've got this amazing park right across the street from our office, and it is such a magnet for the entire community. It's
Right.
only 700 or 7.75 hectare, small, half a block. But if you had 50 of those throughout the city, that would make a massive difference.
Sure it would.
And,
I mean, then the local community can come out and enjoy it, and you can take your kids through the park, you can take your strollers through the park and enjoy it without
Yeah.
having to get on transit and travel across the city to the big urban park that might be there or not there.
Yeah, and I think the regional destinations are important,
Sure.
but you need to serve your local community first. The cellular approach is far, far more effective.
Right.
And certainly in these times when land is more valuable, that it's easier to deliver the smaller parks. But I think it's really important that these are unencumbered.
Right.
So the POPs have challenges in that respect.
Yep.
Because every 20, 30 years, you need to re-waterproof whatever is beneath it.
Right.
The trees haven't even reached their useful size at that point.
Right.
So if the parks are meant to serve these uses, then it's really difficult if it's over a parking garage below grade.
Yeah.
So public parks, unencumbered, can deliver a greater ecological benefit for a city than any kind of POPs could. So, but there's a place for both of them. We need our urban spaces that can support programming. We need the more community-oriented green spaces with wonderful canopies. But hey, any park is a good park.
Perfect.
Right.
And the question I always ask at the end, if someone had a question about the work that you're doing, another municipality that sees this and wants to ask a question, what's the best way to connect with Brent Raymond?
You can reach out to DTAH.com,
Okay.
Either directly to me, Brent at DTAH.com, or go through our website.
Perfect. Great.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate the help. Thanks for the time today, and we'll talk soon.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.